Okay, good evening, everyone. We're 5 minutes early, but we wanted to get the stage set up and get everybody looking at the screen. So if you're joining us, send us a comment. Let us know who you are. Well, that'll tell us anyways, but where you're viewing from tonight. And we're going to start right at 7 o'clock, but everything looks set up. John's
going to wait till 7. We're ready to go. We're ready to go. Got people here.
Get them ready to go.
Get them ready to go.
Yeah, well, we will have a few here soon. If you have any questions in advance, tonight's going to be pretty much a discussion of campgrounds and all things related to the campgrounds. And that could probably go for 2 or 3 hours, but we're going to try to stick to the 30 minutes tonight so that we get into that time frame so that people don't sign in and we tell them it's going to be 30 minutes, but then it winds up being 45 and they may have scheduled something else or scheduled their dinner at the end of 30 minutes. So we're going to try to be respectful of your time also and probably cut it really close to the 30-minute marks as we get into this routine. Another week or two, we'll try the talk show forecast, format. But right now, the format's really looking good. We had a great discussion last week. Several people joined in, so we're pleased. Let us know if you're pleased. Any comments, John?
No, I'm looking at it here. And even though I didn't think I'm on.
Yeah, you're on. You're on now. I got both of us.
Look at those. Those are just amazing.
Yeah, got both of us up there. And so far it's been flawless using this software. It's called Be Live. It's BeLive.tv. But
hey, who we got, folks? Write your name in. Write your name in. Tell us where you're from. See, we got a couple people here, some early birds. So it's always nice to early birds gets the worm. Bob, we were going to tell the first 5 people they get a free RV, right? Just go to any dealership in New England that's a member and just pick it out, drive it off the lot.
Just tell them John sent you. That'll go over.
Exactly.
Where are you seeing 2? Oh, we got 2 up on the top. We got 1.
I see 1 now. See, we already lost 1.
We already lost 1. Didn't even start and we lost 1.
I know. We're doing good. So
there we go. All right. Yeah, they might be joining us a little late, but tonight we wanted to talk about campgrounds and anything related to the campground. And we'll start off with some of the issues and challenges. You know, when you look at the RV industry, you've got the manufacturers that make all these wonderful toys, and then you've got the dealers that sell them, and then you've got people going to the campgrounds with them. And lots of times, if people are going to have a good or bad experience with an RV, it's going to happen in a campground because that's where they are. That's where they like to go and meet other people. And then the burden, if anything goes wrong, sometimes winds up with the campground because they think that the campground
good. It's the campground. We'll take credit for it. If it's something bad, they take the fall for it. But, you know, as you and I know, when we did that seminar a couple of years ago up at the Campground Owners Conference, there is a lot of bitterness between, I shouldn't say bitterness, but there's some unrest between campground owners and RV manufacturers because a lot of things that are made in an RV don't necessarily fit into the campground. And at the other point, there are campgrounds that don't have proper electrical service that could short out an RV. So it's a fine line. And I know Mark Polk has talked about a product. He had talked about those units that you put in between your plug and the pedestal. The surge protectors.
Very, very expensive for what they do, but very important because if you get a short or you have a reverse ground in the pipe, then you could destroy all of the electronics in the coach itself or in the trailer itself.
You say it much more eloquently than I do.
Yeah.
But you know what we should do when we go to the new format in a couple of months, in a few more weeks when we have our engineer available to join us, we should have Mark on to talk about some of the things that people might want to consider buying during the winter so that when camping season rolls around And it's not that far. I mean, we're coming up on February 1st, and we crank our unit up. We get it out of storage on April 1st, so we're one of the early birds. But that's 60 days, and like the Red Sox will be in spring training, and it's never too early to get your motorhome ready for the actual season itself. I'm sure you'd agree with that, Bob.
Right, and when we talk about early, be sure to make your campground reservations early this year. And the reason I say that, as we talked about last week, the industry is going to sell 500,000 RVs in 2017. That's a lot of new RVs on the road that are going to be looking for campgrounds. And one of the areas that the industry has to absorb and put some investment into is expanding the current campgrounds or building new campgrounds.
Right, because assume that those 500,000 units are brand new RVers, which is certainly not the case. But assume that it's just half, 250,000. Has there been an increase in the number of campground spaces available? We all know the answer to that question. Absolutely not. So if you want to go in July and August, that's assuming that you live in New England. In July and August are your prime times. If you want 4th of July week, you might already be too late. I know that a lot of the state sites that you reserve through this organization called Reserve America, there are people laying awake on December 31st. So when that clock strikes midnight, they're putting their reservation in for their favorite waterfront property. I know up in New Hampshire, right at Hampton Beach, there's a property. They're right directly on the ocean. You can't drive up to it. I mean, you can drive up to it. They're going to say we're sold out. Sold out till when? Well, we're sold out till October. So they'll put you in a field, charge you $50, put you in a field. But you know what? It's nowhere like camping right on the ocean. So that's certainly a reminder to do it now.
Yeah, and if you don't know where to find all these people, every state association has, except for Rhode Island, because we don't have that many campgrounds in Rhode Island, but every state has a campground owners association. And you can go to their sites, just Google Massachusetts Campground Owners Association or New Hampshire, and they have digital directories now that you can get to right online, and they tell you the region of the state, the activities that they have, their rates. So it becomes your directory to go find the places that you want to stay this year. And
you will probably find a place that you didn't know existed. But if you find it through the state association, it's got all of the member campgrounds. So it's a lot easier to use those because there would be a link to the individual site, to the individual campground. And even though the campground themselves physically might not be open right now, many of them are electronically taking reservations.
Yep. And when you get to the campground, in many cases, you might have to wait in line because they are registering the people at the desk. Some campgrounds will take you directly to the site and then have you come back up to the office later to check in and sign in, or they may have the whole sign-in package ready for you when you're waiting in line. And there'll be a sign usually at the entrance. John, you want to tell them your story about the sign at the entrance?
Oh. Well, we were at a campground. We won't say the organization that it belonged to, but because you know what, Bob, it happens so often. And when we have the opportunity to speak to the campground owners, we try to tell them that they're not in the campground business. They're in the what, Bob? The outdoor hospitality industry. Okay, instead of, and you know what? Have you ever gone up to have you ever checked into a Marriott or a Courtyard or a Fairfield or a Town Place Suite? When you walked up to the front desk, they said, "Look it, you can't keep the TV on loud. You can't make noise. You can't run the shower after 7 o'clock at night. You can't go down the hallway to use the ice machine after 7 o'clock at night. There's 10 things you can't do, and then it says enjoy your stay." So we've seen that sign with like 10 things. No kids, no bikes, no golf carts, no blah 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 blah. Welcome, have fun.
Yeah. Chuck Lundberg's with us tonight from Talk Camping New Hampshire, and he said, "Very true, John. The state park at Hampton Beach is amazing, right, but the whole park is booked for the summer by the end of March. That's the
Yep.
type of thing that we're talking about. Now is the time to be
Yep.
sitting home, going over the directories, planning your events, and planning where you're going to stay. And that goes for the whole country. That's not just New England.
Yep.
If you think you're going to run down to
No.
Washington, D.C. in the middle of the summer and just walk into Cherry Hill Park and get a campground, it's not going to work that way.
Right. And the big national parks out west.
We had,
you gotta do that stuff in advance.
we had a comment after the fact. We mentioned last week, John. I had an email. They said, reinforce that national park statement about a lot of the national parks can't take anything over 30 feet. So when I do my seminars, I caution the people that it doesn't mean you can't buy anything over 30 feet, but you may not be camping in a national park. They were not built to house slide outs. They were not built for 45-foot diesel pushers.
And they might not have the power. They might not have the 50
power
amp
requirements. They may not have the 50 amp service that most of the new units are coming through with. And just over the past 2 years, Disney World upgraded Fort Wilderness, and they had to take some sites out, make a lot of them larger to accommodate them. But they had fallen behind the times also in terms of the advancements of what the RVs have these days.
Yeah.
Yep.
And let's face it, when you look at some of the 45 footers, the big diesel pushers, it's still got two people in them. I mean, there's a lot of overkill. I'm not saying that, you shouldn't buy them, because if you have the means to buy them, go ahead and buy them. But when you got a 45-foot Prevost, and then you're hauling a Hummer in the back, and between the Hummer and the Prevost, you've got a motorcycle straddling sideways, you're about 65, 70 feet. All I suggest is know how to get gas well, because you ain't going to back up too well with those. And even a lot of the Airstreams that you see, they're 32, 33 feet. The ironic part about camping and going into the great outdoors is there are more electronics on these units now that I'm surprised that somebody hasn't come up with one yet, with a virtual window that just shows nice weather outside, and you never have to get outside because you got 3 air conditioners. And,
they get to that. There are a lot of people like that, and that's their idea of camping. But they pull into the campground, and you never see them. They stay inside, and they're there 2 days, and all of a sudden you hear the roar of the diesel at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they're leaving, and you never get a chance to say hello to them.
Yeah. And hopefully they've put their antenna down or their satellite dish down by then, because pine trees love to eat satellite dishes.
Yep. And awnings that you forget to take in. Yep.
But, let's talk about some of the campground etiquette, the issues that people should be aware of when they go camping, Bob. And, just because you have a motorhome or a travel trailer or a tent and you've paid your fee, there's some people that think that, well, I've paid my fee, I can do anything I want. What do you think of that? Yep.
And they blare, and that's one of the disadvantages of the outside TVs with the extra speakers. They can, you can hear them down on the highway. Very uncomfortable for your guest next door. So you have to
especially if they're watching a sporting event,
right?
That has, usually it's obviously baseball during that time of year. But if you're a diehard fan, you're cheering loudly at every strikeout or home run, depending upon if your team is up at bat or not.
Yep. And when you're in the campground, you probably like to go out for walks and get some exercise. Do it on the roads. You do not cut through somebody's site when they're having dinner with their family and you want to take the shortcut through their site to get to your site. Use the roads.
To get to the pool.
That's their space. They pay for it. Stay out of it.
Well, plus there's also hazards, because there could be electrical cords or hoses or satellite wires that, if it's dusk or dawn, you're not going to see it, especially if it's at night and you're trying to save a few steps. It can be very hazardous. So walk around, get the exercise.
Maybe 60% of the people travel with their pets now, not their kids. They take their kids but they take their pets. And you got to clean up after the pet. Now, many campgrounds now have dog parks. Some have 2, one for the small dogs, one for the large dogs. And they always have the bags ready for you at the parks, or sometimes in different posts throughout the park. But please pick up after your dog. Nobody wants to go stepping through that and taking it back into their trailer or their motorhome.
Well, let's look at another aspect of the perils of having a dog at a site that you're crossing through. That dog is probably on a leash, but that dog could be laying or sleeping underneath the trailer or the little veranda that they put out there, and you walk through. Dogs are territorial. You're on their turf, and you might get hurt by a dog. And people don't just bring poodles anymore. And there's some big dogs that I see in campgrounds.
Well, that's another thing to check when you're looking at the directory, because some campgrounds have a limit on the number of dogs and also the size of the dogs. Mm-hmm. And it's not unusual for campgrounds to tell you which breed of dogs you cannot bring into the campground. Much like some cities and towns have outlawed certain types of dogs, many campgrounds do that also because they want to keep things safe and sane for their guests.
Yep, because if you see a certain breed, people stereotype with dogs. But there are certain breeds that have been known to be more aggressive than others. I mean, you hardly ever hear of a golden retriever or a black lab or a yellow lab involved with any type of, fierceness. But there are other breeds that, whether it's correct or not. I know you're not a dogographer. Hey, there's a new term I just made up, a dogographer, a canine specialist, and I'm not either. But many times when you see a dog being mauled, hear of a mauling by a dog, in many cases it's one or two different types of breeds that are involved with that. Hey, I'm looking. We got a number of people that are watching right now. Why don't we invite our people to just type in where they're viewing from, because it's always interesting to see the capabilities of an international audience. And even though we are the New England RV Dealers Association, our viewers come from all over the U.S. So, folks, feel free to.
Just want to go back to that dog issue for a minute.
Yeah.
The dog breeds get bad reviews when somebody has bred the dog the wrong way. And I mean, I've had relatives that have had German Shepherds, that have had pit bulls. I know Don and Mark both have a rescued pit bull, and that dog is safer and calmer than my little Maltese, who'll yap at you all day long if they don't like it. So much like with people, don't prejudge the dogs, but if you have an incident in the campground, do not try to resolve it yourself. Go to the office, especially in today's society. As much as we say camping is the best thing that you can do, and it is, however, society is changing, so we don't know what some of these people would be like or how they would react if you challenge them on something that's very uncomfortable for you. If you don't like their TV, go to the office and let the staff take care of it. And if it's real serious, go to the office, have them call the police, and then bring the police back to that site to resolve that situation.
I ask people to tell us where they're from. Tom Zabrowski, we know Tom, but he's asking here, I'd like to ask, do you know how many in the NEA, what do you mean by that, Tom, in the Northeast, have facilities for chapter campouts? And I think what he means by that is if you've got a group of people that, whether it be 30 campers or 30 units or 50 units or 100 units, are there campgrounds there we go, Tom, right? Are there campgrounds, Bob? You would know that a little bit more, or we can pass it on to Marcia, who could answer on behalf of the Massachusetts people. Well,
that's a good one, Tom. How you doing tonight? What we could do, and this is what I like about these presentations, these shows, we get good ideas from our people who are visiting with us. Tom, I'll get a hold of all 5 campground associations and get from them a list of people that do rallies. I'll send it to you, of course, but we're going to develop and roll out a campground section on our NERVDA.com website. We have all the state directories listed there. But what we can do is have a section for those that have rallies. I know Normandy Farm has it. I'm pretty sure Cold Springs has it up at their camping. So a lot of them have pavilions, but when Tom talks about rallies, he's talking about something like FMCA, Good Sam, Escapees that traditionally will need a lot of spaces. So they need spaces for the rigs, in addition to perhaps meeting space or a lodge or a hall where they could have dinners and meals or bingo or activities that they do. So there's a lot that goes into it. And, we had 2 really large rallies here 2 years ago in We had FMCA and we had escapees that were in New England for their annual national rallies that were quite successful. We don't see them coming to New England that often, so I don't think we'll see them again for 3 or 4 or 5 years. But if you're into those associations, you know what those are. But it isn't just a rally. Campgrounds are fantastic for family reunions. A lot of families will go to hotels, or they'll have to get hotels because somebody doesn't have a house big enough for them. So if you're planning a family rally, that's a great way to do it for a couple of reasons. If you have relatives with trailers and motorhomes, then they can stay in the traditional site. The others that do not can stay in rental cabins, rental park models, or rental destination campers that most campgrounds now have. That may not be right next to everybody else, and you may not want them right next to
you. Might not want to be next to everybody else. You might want a little bit of solitude. Bob, let me just interrupt you for 1 second there, because effectively, there's the KOA people are putting all these cabins in because people from the cities want to enjoy the RV lifestyle. They want to enjoy the camping lifestyle because they live, there's a KOA I know in New London that will pick you up at the Amtrak station. The Amtrak station in New London, the KOA is right near Foxwoods. They'll pick you up there, and they have people every weekend that come from New York City. And let's face it, the registrations of RV owners in New York City, it's probably not that a lot. It's not that. I don't know where these words are coming out of, but there's not a lot of RV owners in New York City. But they love camping, so they come to these places. So there are people, if you're looking for a family reunion and want to do something totally different, hey, cruises are great. They're very expensive. You can rent facilities, and I know our member, Sherry Fuller, they will even, if you want to rent a travel trailer but don't have a big pickup truck, they will deliver it right to the campground for you, set it up, you go and enjoy it, leave, they come back the next day and pick it up. So a lot of people are wanting to enjoy the camping experience without owning a camper. In other words, it's like try it before you buy it.
Yep. And speaking about Sherry, did any of you see the film clip and the interview on Channel 5 last night? Did a nice job explaining how easy it is to rent a motorhome for the Super Bowl and drive out there. It's 1,400 miles. Drive out there and sleep, and you don't have to worry about a hotel. You don't have to worry about running through the airport. So if you're
you just have to worry if it snows, because driving an RV on Interstate 90 across New York State, Bob, remember when we were going out not too long ago? We hit up around Syracuse. It was like whiteout, and then it was great in Rochester. Buffalo, it was crazy again.
Yep.
A couple of years ago. But I wanted to, we talked about groups, and when we were at the Boston show, we ran into the Cavosas and the Coles. I don't know if Rhonda is still here. Rhonda, are you still there? But they were kind enough to give me their Northeast regional rally calendar for Good Sam. Now, we're not here to promote Good Sam per se, but here's an organization that will, if you're not into RVing right now, they will teach you everything you need to know about RVing. And I think, Bob, you'd agree, and everybody who's here watching us would agree that RVers are probably the most cordial, welcoming group of people that I've ever come across in my life. So whether you're a plumber or a bank president, it makes no difference, because, Bob, you say it so well, you check your title at the door, right, and come in.
Leave the business cards at home. Nobody cares who you are. They just care if you're going to have a good time, and they want to help you have a good time.
Unless you own a mobile RV business. So when you walk through the RV park, always give people your card. Because
then you get the card. Yeah.
The message people have here is it's always Memorial Day weekend, May 25 through 28. It's at the Franklin County Fairgrounds in Greenfield. It's a great time. I call it a 3-generation event. Back up and
go over that. I was talking over you. Go back up and start that one over again.
So we met the Cavosas in Boston, and they were kind enough to hand me their schedule from May through September, and they're the Good Sam people, and every state has a Good Sam chapter. So I know we've got people from all over the Northeast that are joining us, including Atlanta, Canada, which I think would include Nova Scotia and Quebec. No, not at least Nova Scotia. So there's a Massachusetts event in May, Rhode Island event in June, New York State in July, Atlanta, Canada also in July, Vermont in August, New Hampshire in August, Ontario in August, Maine in September, Quebec in September, and then there's the 5th annual Southern New England Family Fest, which takes place at what I believe is the premier campground in North America, and that is at Normandy Farms, where if you were dropped there and didn't know where you were, you would think you're in a Four Seasons hotel type environment with the lodges and the check-in area there.
Chuck had another good comment below. You are able, much like you would if you were planning a meeting at a hotel, you would certainly go to the hotel, you would check out the rooms, you'd look at the guest rooms, you'd check out the restaurant. Well, as Chuck points out, with Talk Camping New Hampshire, you can go to the campground. You call up and make an appointment, or you can stop by and request a tour of the park. Now, they may not have people available that day, but they would let you drive through the park, and stop, check out the bathrooms, check out the event center, check out the dump station or the hookups in the sites themselves, look and see if they're level, not rocky, how their hookups are for the electricity, the cable, and the water. So it's a good point. So as you look at the directory, pick out 2 or 3 that you think you might want to go to and then take a trip.
And well beyond that, about what the physical facilities are like, look around and see if the environment is like what you want. Say you're bringing your grandkids or your own young kids. Is it a place that is noisy enough during the day that your kids riding around are not going to be considered troublemakers? Because one thing about New England, there is a wide variety of parks, of types of parks. I know one particular day we hit 7 or 8 of them, all parks that exhibited in the Boston show. And some of them are wide open fields, which people like because they can always keep their eye on kids. And some of them are in deeply forested areas. Rob Silva asked a question before, Bob. I don't know if you saw it. What's a good website to browse campgrounds and make reservations? There's no one particular answer to that, but Rob, tell us where you're from if you're still with us, and we can. Are
you related to the Silvas, Scott Silver and the gang up there at Cold Springs, Rob? You can certainly check as you go through the directory of the campgrounds. They have their website, so you can check those websites. There's also a site called campgroundviews.com, VIEWS, and they're on a long campaign to list videos of campgrounds. So they drive through a campground, they give you kind of a pictorial by a video of what the campground is like, because directories don't have that. And a lot of the campgrounds are now adding that to their websites because people want videos. So Campground Views is one that you could check out and see what they have in those particular areas. Walter's with us again tonight. Good evening, Walter. Thanks for joining.
Michelle was with us too. Michelle, how do you like my background? It better not fall down while I'm talking about it. Right. So I'm going to send one of these. Yeah.
So Rhonda is still with us, which means if Rhonda is on here, that there's no Bruins game tonight because she would not do 2 screens. She would not.
No, she could be.
She's not going to do that. She's going to
be multitasking.
No, not when it comes to the Bruins. She does post. Maybe that's not true though, because she does post. She gives them cyber encouragement when they're not playing their best. She has been known to say some things on Facebook to get them going again. So
Jason Cole just walked in, and by the way,
maybe that's a new word, cyber enthusiast.
Cyber enthusiast. It almost sounds like you could get arrested for that.
Well, that's possible.
That's true. But Jason just they're on tomorrow night. Rhonda says they're on tomorrow night.
Oh, tomorrow night. Okay.
We have to realize we can never do because the Bruins usually play on like Thursday and Sunday. So we have to make sure that when we do this, we never schedule it opposite a Bruins game.
Right. Okay.
Now Walter halftime of the Super Bowl.
Right. Now Walter says we reminded him, and he's just reserved at Herkimer KOA in New York. That is an outstanding campground, great campground for young kids. That's I think they still have the diamond mines up there, don't they? Well, isn't it diamond?
Oh, Herkimer. Yeah.
Diamond, the diamond mines at the Herkimer KOA up off the easy to get to off the throughway.
90.
Plenty of things to do in that area, and then he's going to go to the New York Good Sam rally. Good.
Right. Hey, Jason, that you're here. Type in a little bit of the details of your event, June 15 through 17 at the Washington County Fairgrounds. How many people do you expect for that event? I don't know if you're still president anymore. Even if you try to not be president.
Jason and Lisa are the Good Sam state directors for the state of Rhode Island. So they hold up Rhode Island. Even though they don't have a state campground association, I'm sure any camper in Rhode Island knows Jason and Lisa. In fact, Good Sam does a great job down there with them, and Rhonda and Joe Cabosa. They're the state directors for Massachusetts. And there are state chapters of Good Sam elsewhere here in New England that they do it. One of the things that I talk about a lot in my seminars, and we just did some more in Hartford last weekend, and following up to the success in the Boston show, the Hartford show had great numbers, and a lot of people were buying new campers. And I always talk about camping as a return to the family values of what we knew when we were kids, and having an area where the kids can go running around, meeting new friends, putting down the computer, putting down the tablets and the smartphones, taking their bikes and running around the campground. The parents get a chance to relax. They go off and play somewhere. The parents can sit back and have a glass of wine and actually have a good conversation with your spouse, and kids aren't in every room in the house. It's also very safe, but it's a great place to get the family together, enjoy the activities, socialize, and just enjoy the outdoors itself.
And it's funny. It seems like we're picking on Jason, but I know the Coles have been bringing their kids, so at least for the 5 or 6 years that we've known them, and they're coming into teenager world very soon, so they may not want to be coming much more, or they might be saying, hey, mom and dad, can we bring friends with us? Because they bring their kids, and the kids like it, and I think they also bring Lisa's parents. So there's 3 generations that come to the Good Sam events there.
Yeah, let me jump on here. We got Todd Emerson back with us again. Todd's the sales manager over at Longview RV, and I didn't get a chance to say hello to him. I went by 4 or 5 times during the Hartford show in between the seminars, but every time I went by, he was writing orders and selling up a storm. They had a great selection of trailers. They had 2 of the Heimer Class B motorhomes that got an awful lot of attention. And Todd, you don't have to give us your numbers, but on a scale of 1 to 10, and I think I know what number you're going to put in, how did you rate your activity at the Hartford show? And Jason has an interesting comment about doing an all-chapter camp out, trying to bring the Good Sam Jamboree back to where it started. When you say that, do you mean the 6 chapters? Because I don't think you have chapters within because FMCA has chapters within that. But if you're doing it with all 5 states, then NERVDA would certainly help you promote it, and we'd certainly work with our dealers so that you had a good display of motorhomes and trailers down there also, Jason. Okay, he's got the Rhode Island.
He's using that forbidden word, Samboree. They were getting rid of that word, Samboree, because nobody knew what it was. So I think they call it camp outs now.
Yeah, I think they did get rid of it. Yeah.
Jason, you're on probation now. You're on Good Sam probation for using the word Samboree.
Well, that's terrible. We touched briefly.
It is terrible.
Campgrounds renting destination campers and park model campers. And John's, well, the destination campers don't take up a site for many, many years. The park models are there pretty much forever. And a lot of campgrounds have found them to be good to rent to, because people who rent the park models and the destination campers hopefully have a real good experience in the campground and turn around and buy an RV. But the destination camper is something that people also buy, and they put it in a site somewhere that they like to be for the summer. So you may decide that you want to go down to Cape Cod, you find a campground you like, and you put a destination camper there. Even if you don't have a vehicle big enough to tow it, the dealer will bring it to the campsite, set it up. And then the next year, maybe you want to go to the White Mountains. Well, you either have the dealer take it back up there, you hire somebody to take it up there and set it up for you, and then you spend the summer in New Hampshire. So you pick out a place that you really like because you're going to go there every weekend, or certainly several times a month on that. So that's how campgrounds use destination trailers and park models to help promote the lifestyle and hopefully get those people into buying RVs for the next season. Comment on that, John?
We're coming up on 7:30, and as I look down on our agenda, we've pretty much gone through a lot of these. But Rhonda had mentioned that just in Massachusetts, there's 10 different chapters.
Wow, so that's what I was thinking about. So how many?
Not just a state chapter, but there's individuals, and some of them are based upon geography, but some of them are based upon, some people might like, a certain hobby, whether it's archery or finger painting or knitting or photography or something like that. And Jason said there's even 6 chapters in tiny little Rhode Island. So, if you're looking to get around the groups of people that really love camping and really do it every weekend, the sad thing is we only get 5 or 6 months to camp in New England unless we head south in October. But get a hold of the Good Sam people or the FMCA people, and or just get your own group. We found out younger people don't like joining big groups. So you know what? Get 3 or 4 friends. I'm finding that a lot of my daughter's friends are now getting campers. But they go camp with their friends. They don't like the big organized activity, but they like just going with each other. And we're already at 31 minutes. Yep.
And Jason and Joe and Rhonda, let's grab a cup of coffee one of these days and talk about putting one of those all chapter activities together, because I think it would be a lot of fun. And I think we could get a lot of support from our dealers throughout New England, since we have dealers in all 6 New England states. All right. We are going to stick to the schedule tonight. Let me make sure there's no additional, because I'm about ready to run low on my battery and my cord is in the other room. But I think we answered most of the questions. If not, drop us an email. I'm at bobzagami@nervda.com, and we'll address them next week. And then also, if you'd like, send us some ideas on what you'd like next week's show to be about. All right. Closing comments, John.
No, we're excited. You know what? At 5 o'clock tonight, it was still bright.
That's right.
And I look at the end of January as a time. If it's bright at 5 o'clock, spring can't be much farther down the road. And what we want to do is just tell people you can mentally be camping year round. And, now's the anticipation time. Go to some RV shows. There's the Springfield show coming up. What is it? Not Columbus Day. What's that holiday? Washington's birthday.
Yep, we got Rhode Island, we got New Hampshire, we got Maine. There's still a lot of RV shows out there.
A lot of shows to go. Yep. And hey, it's fun. Let's go RVing. That's what I say, guys.
Okay, thanks everyone. Appreciate you joining in.
Oh, share the show.
Huh?
Share the show. Right underneath the show, it says share. Share it with your friends. Let's see if we can get 2,000 or 3,000 views of this like we did last week.
Fair enough. All right. Good night, everybody.